It's time for Ubisoft, Square Enix, and Nintendo to step up to the plate at E3 2019 on this version of the PCC Extra. Welcome back, everyone, to a PCC Extra. It's Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here, along with my good friend. He is right here with me, and he's heading to E3 2019. By the time you hear this, he'll be at E3 2019. It's my good friend. It's Josh Peterson. Josh, it's just great to do this right now. Like you said, we would be updating people onto the show about what's going on with E3 2019, and we're going to do that today. So I'm so excited because there's been 3 more conferences that's produced a lot of news.
Yeah, I've been super excited about them. It's funny because after watching the Square one, I went back and played the Final Fantasy X remasters, and I forgot how annoying it is that you actually have to go to certain save points. And they don't auto-save, or you can't save from a menu. And I ended up playing the game for like 3 hours, and then I died without saving it. So I lost about 15 levels worth of stuff. So that was fun. But yeah, go retro games, right?
Exactly. But we're going to be talking about a lot of games coming back, some novelties as far as that are coming back into the limelight, a lot of remakes, a lot of reimagining. And in fact, I at one time said the comment to you that it's the Square Enix E3 Conference 2019 remastered, because they just kept on announcing remake and remaster and remake and remaster. They finally got into some new stuff, but it took a little while. So I know you liked it, and I know a lot of people out there liked it as well. But again, relying a lot of remakes and remasters, you got to have some new stuff to throw in there. And finally, Square Enix was going to do just that. But we're going to talk about Square Enix here in a little bit. Right now, first off, it was Ubisoft. There was a lot of stuff that was talked about when it concerns Ubisoft. Not all of it was just exciting news. It's the usual Tom Clancy stuff, Watch Dogs, some Assassin's Creed things. Some of it was interesting. A little bit of new IPs were sprinkled in there. What do you want to start off, my friend? Because I know a lot of people were interested in the newest version of Watch Dogs called Watch Dogs Legion, as far as the game is now set in the United Kingdom.
Yeah, actually, so I bought Watch Dogs 2 and I haven't played it yet, but I do remember really enjoying my time with Watch Dogs 1. And after seeing this trailer for Watch Dogs Legion, I'm fascinated by it because this is the first time we haven't had in the Assassin's Creed games, right? We've had faceless protagonists, but this is the first time we haven't had an official protagonist. So we have the guy who's narrating into your earpiece or whatever it is as you're going through the game. But this is interesting to me because you are Legion, right? You're playing as all these different characters. You're recruiting people who have different skills, and you can recruit them based on what kind of skills you're looking for. So what they showed in the gameplay trailer was that you look at the people, you scan them, and you see like what can this guy do? Like one guy was an MMA fighter, the other person was a drone hacker, and that's where they focused in on because you need someone to go take out all the drones. But as you're doing this, the character that you were playing dies, and what you find out from this is that you don't go back to a checkpoint, you don't get a game over, you get what's called permadeath. And permadeath is, basically when your character doesn't come back to life. And once that character dies, you play as one of the other characters you've recruited, which is in this case was the old lady. And the old lady's job, or I think it wasn't the old lady, it was somebody else, but it's your job now to go in and help
you basically switch characters, even
yes.
when after you suffer a permadeath with one character, you'll just hop onto another, and pretty much anybody within that environment can be someone that you can recruit into the resistance, so to speak.
Yeah, so you go in, and what's cool about it, though, is after you save these characters, after you go in and help them out and recruit them to your cause, they do mention the characters who you were originally playing as when you went to help him. Like the guy that ended up dying, he asks about, hey, what happened to that bloke that helped me, who was originally helping me? Oh, he didn't make it. And so that's kind of what, I guess, in the story of the game makes you want to, join the cause or whatever, because you're like, oh, this guy risked his life to help me. So it's really cool though, because I'm curious like how many characters you can recruit to your roster, so on and so forth. So you have one character who can't do all the different things like Aiden Pierce could in the first one. Instead, you have different characters you have to recruit to do different things. And this is really cool to me because there's no chance that you're going to be overpowered or anything. But what I don't like about it is that, I don't know, man, I have a hard time with this idea of not being able to latch on to one character. With too many characters, my fear is that it's going to become overwhelming. But from watching the gameplay trailer, what did you take away from it?
Well, that part of it is interesting unless you get to the point where you play through 10, 12 characters and they're essentially the same thing. And if that's the case, and it's just going to be no real differentiation from any character that you're playing without just the voices being, or the aesthetic differences being the difference there. And let's say you play as the old lady and you're playing for her through a while and whatnot. Is she going to be doing a loop as far as the amount of things she's going to say after maybe 20, 30 minutes? Is she going to run out of things to say? So you know what? She's saying the same things over and over again on a loop. So I don't know about exactly what the limitations are going to be as far as the amount of characters you're going to play, but they're boasting that you can play as so many different characters within the context of the game that you can go ahead and recruit and become part of the resistance, that you can take them over when you suffer a permadeath in one. I will see how this works, but again, as someone who reviews games like both you and I have, the first thing I would say is, okay, I'm playing a new person. Is this going to be a new character that I'm going to play with all new characteristics, all new personality? Is it going to be something that's just beyond the audio and aesthetics that obviously have to be differentiated in order to go ahead and get some semblance of an immersion into playing a different character? So I don't know. The book's still out. The jury's still out on it. I would like to see how this goes into detail because, again, let's say, Josh, you're going ahead with your 20th character in the game. How different is that 20th character going to be from the first character that you played?
Right, and that's where the idea of them all having different skill sets come in and different background stories. It just makes me wonder, like in typical RPG or, action adventure game fashion, how many of those are going to be repeats of each other? How you have characters who you go into the world and there's somebody wearing the same clothes as somebody else. How many incidents of that are we going to come across? But at the same time, like from what I understand, because of the uniqueness of each of the characters in the game, it caused a lot of issues in production. So, I'm hopeful that they would take the time to craft the world and carefully do all that stuff. But seeing how this is going to be Ubisoft's only big game, seemingly of 2019 or the holiday season, or what was it, 2020? I think it's slated to come out April, February, March, something like that.
Yes, it is a spring 2020 release.
Right. So this is
as many things I heard announced is, and so that means that some of these are going to be pushed back even farther.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens. But I mean, this is like the last big hurrah of this generation of consoles. So how this happens, what happens? I imagine that they're going to take good care of what they're doing. But then again, Watch Dogs 2 was critically acclaimed by some and then just not not acclaimed at all by others. So I have it. I bought it from Target actually for $11.99. Haven't played it yet, but looking forward to it. And Watch Dogs Legion looks good, man. It looks good. I do want to play it, but will there be time? That's the big question, because 2020 has a lot of games coming out, so I'm kind of curious about how I'm going to organize my time there.
Exactly. A lot of games are being announced for the first half of 2020, so we'll see which ones materialize within those dates and which ones get bumped back, because it is starting to get a little bit of a logjam within those first 6 months of 2020. One of the things I wanted to ask you about when it came to some of the announcements that Ubisoft made, before we go into really with the other Tom Clancy stuff, that related stuff that is part of the mix when it comes to Ubisoft each and every year. I know Assassin's Creed Odyssey has been near and dear to your heart as far as something you devoted a great deal of time into. Could you explain some of the DLC options that are coming that might get people invested into coming back into the realm of Assassin's Creed Odyssey?
Well, there's not really a lot. Like Assassin's Creed Odyssey, it needs to die. It needs to end because, if they're still pumping out DLC for Odyssey, nobody's going to play the new one that allegedly takes place in Norse mythology. But, right now there's one full episode of DLC out called The Legacy of the Hidden Blade, which takes place over 3 chapters. You can play them now. Wasn't a huge fan of the last chapter of that. Right
Well,
now,
I was talking about more like the story creator that they announced.
Yeah.
And an educational mode.
Yeah, so the educational mode is kind of like in Origins, how they had the Smithsonian version, right? So you can go through, there's no combat. You're basically just going up to all the historical places, the pyramids of Giza, stuff, all the different towns and cities, and you can kind of see, and they have little boxes that pop up, and you can look at them and be like, oh, hey, that's whatever it is. That's the place where some guy got turned into a mummy or whatever you want to call it. And then in Odyssey, they have the same thing, right? So you can go to the different temples, different places in Greece that are now run down and decrepit, and they rebuilt them, and they tell you about what they are and what they're famous for, things like that. The story mode, from what I understand, is super simple, but it's fun to play with. So you create your own stories, your own narratives, but there's nothing like elaborate. It's only things that are small, kind of like side quests. You can go through and you can play them, you create them. I don't know if there's like a share mode or whatever it is, but it looks interesting, and if their goal is to make Odyssey a game that never ends, it seems like they're going to be successful in that. But my question to you is, do you think that they're going to say that somebody's story they create is more interesting than somebody else's? Do you think there'll be a marketplace for different people's stories that they can create, kind of like dreams?
I think so, and I think there should be. And should they charge for it? Depends on the realm. It should, if it meets a certain criteria as far as story length, story involvement, things of that nature, sure, charge a couple bucks for it. And what, 50-50? What do you think is a fair price when it comes to, I know Bethesda really got in heat over what they did with Elder Scrolls Skyrim and mods that were taken on there and trying to charge mods and taking a big, huge cut. What would you think a fair thing is for it? I would say 50-50 personally, but that's just me. Could be less, could be more. I'm just personally saying, if I'm making the mod, but they were the ones who made the game in the first place, and they're the ones that are putting it on their marketplace, I would probably say 50-50 cut would be great. But if it's all free DLC, that's even better. I would even say that's great. But if people are going to take the time to create a large amount of DLC, like a real invested 2 to 4 hour campaign or an extra side story, that's something that I think in order to go ahead and do that takes a lot of time to go ahead and create. So I would suggest maybe offering some type of price for it and, getting some type of cut in return if you were Ubisoft. But that's just me. So
yeah, it's hard, man. It depends on how expansive the DLC is and what's going on with that. But
yeah, I mean, if it's just a 30-minute, kill, no, yeah. That's not. But if it's something really invested, I think people should get rewarded for it. And I also think Ubisoft should get a little bit of a cut for it. I think a 50-50 or even Ubi, 40% or whatever should be fine. But I mean, to me, that I don't see a problem with that.
Yeah, because I don't know if 50-50 is fair to the creator of it, because Ubisoft, they didn't have to.
But then they had the game in the first place.
They have the game, and
they have the marketplace.
Like, it's basically free money for them. They're putting in the story creation mode, and all they got to do is sit back and watch what people are going to do with it. So 50-50, they're going to make a profit no matter what. So, I mean, they don't necessarily have to have 50-50 to make money. They can have 60-40.
Well, if it's only charging $2, I would say $1.
Yeah, maybe something even less than that. But yeah, I mean, I guess it all depends on how much what the price points are and all that stuff. But
I mean, they're not going to be charged if they start charging $15 for it. That's going to turn off people right away.
Think about this though. I mean, when the next Assassin's Creed drops in, I imagine it's going to be a launch title in 2020, right, in the holiday season.
You're talking about Gods and Monsters, correct?
I'm not there yet, but I mean,
okay, not there yet. Sorry.
When the next actual Assassin's Creed game drops, Is anybody still going to be playing with the character creation or the story creation mode in Odyssey? I'm thinking probably not.
No, and you're probably right. But I still think at least, there should be some type of fair trade for Ubisoft because they have the marketplace. Therefore, they keep it in place. They keep the servers in place, all that. There's maintenance involved. Then also they created the game, which provided that mod in the first place. But again, I don't, whatever's fair for the marketplace, I'm always on the side of the creators if push comes to shove. So that's another issue for another day. And believe me, Bethesda got in a lot of trouble for that. So you know what? That's another issue for another day. So some of the things that they also mentioned was Gods and Monsters from one of the teams that helps create Assassin's Creed. It is not an Assassin's Creed per se, but it's, like you said, it was within the mythology and things of that nature. Your thoughts on Gods and Monsters, because it's not a true-fledged Assassin's Creed type game, but it deals within that type of Greek mythology, so to speak.
Not enough revealed about it to really get me to lean one way or another. It looks cool. I'm always open to new properties from Ubisoft, but I mean, again, look at Skull and Bones, right? They announced that 3 years ago now, and we still haven't even seen the game. It hasn't been released. We don't know what it looks like. So anytime they don't already have an engine built for a certain game, it takes years for it to come out. Well, I do like the prospect of this game and the idea that it was made by the team behind Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I'm not really holding my breath as for when it's going to come out. It looks cool. It sounds cool in concept, but again, when are we going to see this game? Probably never.
And let's go into some of the other things that they talked about when it comes to Ubisoft. They did talk about a roller derby game called Roller Champions that's coming, I believe, to PCs in the near future. Plus, also as well, they talked about a lot of stuff within the Tom Clancy verse, starting off with Ghost Recon Breakpoint. I know they were so happy to have John Bernthal involved in the process, and you'll be able to see a character that is represented by him in the game. So he'll be very invested as far as the game is concerned. So a lot of people are looking forward to that. Saw some footage. It looks okay. It's Ghost Recon. So, I think a lot of people are hoping for some good things when it comes to Ghost Recon Breakpoint. Rainbow Six not only announced a new Battle Royale, what a surprise of its own, but they also announced that their new game in development, hopefully coming out next year, again, another 2020 game, is Rainbow Six Quarantine. So we're hoping that will go ahead and materialize into something that's could be just as effective and just as popular as Rainbow Six Siege. Before we head on out, what were your thoughts on what Ubisoft represented at their Ubisoft E3 conference?
I didn't like it. Honestly, they were pimping more television shows and movies.
You like the Always Sunny in Philadelphia type deal?
Right, and they're like, oh, the Division 2 is becoming a thing, and there's something about maybe a Ghost Recon property making its way to Netflix. There wasn't anything to announce. Everyone's expecting another Nintendo crossover. Didn't happen. We got the Division 2 post-launch plans, but if you listen to the audience, there wasn't really a lot of hype about it. And everyone's predicting that there's going to be another Splinter Cell. Then they introduced Sam Fisher in Elite Squad, right? But it's just a mobile battle royale multiplayer type thing. So you're not getting that. And of course you're
whoop-de-doo.
Right. And of course, you get your For Honor DLC, but that's kind of in Just Dance 2020, but that's something you expect. That's like traditional E3 type stuff. So I don't know. I thought that it was very weak. I put it below Bethesda for sure, but it's just that there's nothing terribly interesting about it. And again, Terminator is making a big appearance, and everyone's I don't know if that's something you want to be associated with as far as Terminator and Ghost Recon Breakpoint, but
he's everywhere. He's going to be in Gears of War 5,
right.
And it's Sarah Connor as well in Gears of War 5.
Yeah, but Ubisoft was super lackluster. What were your overall thoughts of it?
It was all right. Nothing great to me. I think Watch Dogs Legion is something that I would have to see in practice because I don't want to go ahead and get into a new character and feel like it's just a skin off of something I've already played 10 times before, because that's, to me, is going to be a waste of money. I'm interested to see what Rainbow Six Quarantine is all about, because we were talking about what we would like to see as far as a new Rainbow Six Vegas, and this could be this could take the place of that. So it is, I think, going to be a 3-player co-op type game. So I'm very interested to see where that goes. But otherwise, there was nothing that really struck out to me. I know Uplay Plus, their own subscription service, what do you know, coming around the corner, or talking about that as well. So Ubisoft is just doing what Ubisoft wants to do right now, promoting a lot of stuff outside of really good new IPs for the most part. Although, you know what? We've got to give Ghost Recon a chance. Hopefully it'll do better than Wildlands. Watch Dogs 2, I know a lot of people were on the fence about it. It did not have the original zest and fire that first Watch Dogs, of the original Watch Dogs trailer, came out on E3. So we'll have to wait and see what a lot of people are going to be saying, and a lot of games are going to be coming out on Ubisoft. Wasn't great, wasn't bad, but it just really didn't have any kind of oomph to it, I think, as far as what they needed to really have them stand out as far as E3 is concerned.
You're listening to the Pop Culture Cosmos. Don't touch that dial. Wait, do people still use dials?
Listen up, all you gamers out there. Miracle Fruit Oil is ramping up the deals on its awesome Vitabrace gaming wristband. Vitabrace is clinically proven to help improve your gaming performance. Vitabrace will help you achieve your gaming goals, whether it's that single-player campaign, retro classic, or battle royale. Head on over today to miraclefruitoil.com, and if you use the code Vitabrace50, you'll get half off on a Vitabrace gaming wristband, or use the code Buy One Get One, and it's buy one, get one free. That's right, just use the code Vitabrace50, or buy and the number one, get and the number one today to get some great deals on some Vitabrace gaming wristbands. So check it out today at miraclefruitoil.com. Vitabrace, win with it. Next, we had Square Enix, and as I told you, a lot of remasters that were coming up, including the Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles, The Last Remnant, Romancing Saga 3, Dragon Quest 11. That is going on the Switch, and that's great news for Nintendo Switch owners. Octopath Travelers, that's great. Those remakes are going to be cool and awesome, but I think a lot of people were mainly looking at two things, and that's not Outriders from the Bulletstorm dev, but two things primarily when it came to Square Enix that either made or broke their conference, and that was the extended look at the Final Fantasy VII Remake and the Avengers game coming in May 2020. So I want to hear your thoughts, man. First off, as a beloved fan of the Final Fantasy VII juggernaut that it is amongst gamers, it's almost at reach to mythical legends as far as either people who said they have played it, people who've actually played it, and people who just love following it in the first place. So I want to hear your thoughts, my friend. There's been some conversation about the new combat system in Final Fantasy VII, this remake coming up. So I want to hear your thoughts as far as the Final Fantasy VII remake. After you got to take a good look at it, where does it stand with you?
You know, as much as it pains me to say this, the battle screen that takes you to a different, or the fighting that takes you to a battle screen, right? The days of that have come and gone, right? 90s was big into that type of thing, but now we have the active battle system, right? Like in Final Fantasy 15, Devil May Cry, games like that. People like fast-paced things, and talking to people who are up and coming gamers, they want an active battle system. They don't want the type of battle system where you have to go to a separate screen, you have to choose attack, you have to choose magic, you have to choose items to heal your guys. They don't want to play strategically. They just want to mash buttons and be able to do their thing. And I totally get that, and that's fine. I was raised on games like Final Fantasy 7, Final Fantasy 10, 8, things like that, where you actually had to go to a battle screen. But after playing something like 15, I'm like, this flows really well, right? You don't have to stop what you're doing to go into a separate screen to fight a monster or whatever. So seeing the battle encounters taking place in Final Fantasy 7, I'm stoked, man. Like, I love the idea of being able to switch between characters or hide behind boxes or whatever it is, and having to strategically take out enemies instead of just hacking and slashing at them. I love that, man. I think that looks really cool. And that boss that they showed with Cloud and Barrett fighting the Shinra machine, Like I'm all for that, man, and I'm super stoked about it. And I love how Cloud had to go and find the weakness in the machine, and Barrett starts shooting at it, and they're like, oh, it's weak against thunder, so you equip the thunder materia to your weapons, and you have to be super strategic to play this game. And that's cool, man. That's something that, because the Final Fantasy games, they've always been very simple in their own rights, but now you actually have to think about what you're doing, and I think that's really cool. Plus, it's all the same screen. It's not one cutscene like in God of War, but it's all the same screen, and it seems to flow very well. It's a very fluid game, going from one point to another, to a battle, to a cutscene, to whatever it is. And I love seeing that you can play as Tifa or Barrett or whoever it is, and still be able to use their skills. You don't have to select each person separately as the battle goes on. You can just, if you need someone's skill, you can switch characters and play as them for a minute, then go back to Cloud or whatever it is. My question, like, as I'm watching this though, my question is, like, Nomura had come up on stage and say that we have, about 2 Blu-ray discs worth of content for this game. Do you think that there's going to be an open world? Because that was a big part of Final Fantasy VII. Remember, was the open world exploration. So how do you think they're going to handle this in that game?
You go to a checkpoint and it's going to say, please insert disc 2. Just like the old days, my friend. Just like the old days.
Feeling though, like when you got to the end of disc 1, it said, please insert disc 2. And you're like, heck yeah, man. Disc 2. I am making progress.
Well, let's see how it goes, but it probably something similar. I mean, because it's just, again, a remake. It's not something, an original IP. So, I mean, people will have that nostalgia feeling of doing that disc switching. So just for that, I think they'll tolerate that when it comes to Final Fantasy VII, is because it is a remake. If it was, I don't know, let's say Ghost Recon Breakpoint, then I think people would have an issue because it's a brand new game and things of that nature. But because this is a remake of how many years game, I think that's okay. I think they'll let it slide. I think some people, especially newer audiences, may not understand the concept of what are we going to do? Oh, we got to put in another disc?
Yeah, and that's funny too, because I was watching the Square stream from the GameSpot YouTube page, and as I was watching the comments pop up, people are like, boring, show us Avengers, stuff like that. And I almost hope that they didn't show an Avengers trailer just to piss them off. But as they showed like the Dragon Quest Builders trailer, that's a Minecraft wannabe. Are you kidding me, man? Dragon Quest was out when you were still a sperm, so don't tell me that that's a Minecraft wannabe. All these kids, they don't appreciate these old franchises. Everything's an Overwatch wannabe or a Minecraft wannabe. It's these Minecraft is, whatever franchise that was wannabe or whatever, and it's like a lot of these kids don't appreciate the franchises that shaped gaming. And I think that's one of the big things that makes gaming culture so toxic these days.
That it does, my friend. That it does, and so many other reasons why the gaming culture is so toxic and sometimes very hard to deal with. But again, Square Enix did announce a lot of remakes on the way. So if you're into remakes, more coming at you from Square Enix. I got to give them credit. They know where their bread is buttered, and they have a lot of things in the vault that they're willing to remake. We want to see EA do the same thing. Hint, hint, Mass Effect for the 1,000th time. We're going to remind them. So I don't know.
Can we for a minute though, like, mention? I love the Mana collection that they're putting out. All these old games, because for the first time when I was a kid, these games were all exclusive to Japan, so I can never play them. But now they're out, and I'm an adult, and I don't have time to play them, but I really want to buy them so I can play them. So, I really admire how they're bringing those games out. Final Fantasy VIII is being remade. Square is doing a lot right by the fans, and I would almost go as far as to say that Square had, behind Nintendo, Square had the best conference of E3 that I've seen.
Well, I tell you what, there was a lot to like about Square Enix, because at the end, they talked about the Avengers. Finally, Avengers, we got to see a good bit of the cutscenes. Didn't get to see anything really as far as gameplay is concerned to my extent that I wanted to see. But the game is coming out May 2020. cannot use the same likenesses from the Avengers that we know and we see in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And the voices are a who's who in the video game voiceover industry with Nolan North, Troy Baker, and so much more. But unfortunately, they didn't want to pay the cashola to get the likenesses and voices of the characters we know from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Did you find that disappointing? That could have been the difference between maybe an EA should have had the title or maybe an Activision should have had the license for an Avengers instead of Square Enix, because Square Enix cannot afford to go ahead and go, you know what, we're going to pay for Chris Evans' likeness and voice, or more, or Robert Downey Jr. or anyone else for that matter that's associated with the Avengers.
No, because you look at the atrocious way in which Activision and EA or whatever have handled superhero properties before, and I don't. The voice acting means very little to me. Granted, I don't like it because I feel like this is an all-star game made up of, Nathan Drake and Troy Baker's on there, and there's a lot of characters voicing that is familiar to characters that we've played throughout games and all that stuff. But I trust Square to make this game. Square has always been good with progression. I wish they would have shown more gameplay. What does it look like? Is there a progression system? Can we level up our characters? How does it work switching between different Avengers? But I'm not super thrilled about this game. But if I did trust anyone to make it, it would be Square or Eidos Montreal. I think it's Montreal in this case. They did make Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and that was a pretty great game. But I trust them to craft a narrative and create gameplay that's fun but still challenging. And if it was put in the hands of Activision, there would be you'd have the Destiny issues, right, where the game feels rushed, or there's something wrong with the voice acting. They don't like it. They have to go back and redo things. Granted, Square has taken a long time to put this game out, but I trust them with it.
Well, as long as you do, the game, like I said, showed some cutscenes. It was all right. They had a voice actor roundtable talking about the importance of the Avengers. That I guess they're, I don't know. I just would have loved to have seen it from the Marvel Cinematic Universe perspective, and seeing a roundtable with the Marvel Cinematic Universe actors and things of that nature. But still, I'm going to get it if the gameplay looks any good. So it is coming out May 2020. It is the Avengers game. It is something that is either going to really rock the socks off the video game industry, or it's going to be something that's going to, I don't know. Shall we call this, if it burns, being like an Enter the Matrix, where it sells really good very early on, then people realize it's a trash game and then just goes ahead and it dies from there?
I don't know, because look at Shadow of the Tomb Raider was good, but it wasn't exactly.
But I'm talking about as a licensed property.
Right. No, but I'm looking back at this as Eidos Montreal, right? Like Shadow of the Tomb Raider was good, but it didn't exactly sell huge numbers of copies. So if Marvel's Avengers fail, I don't see Eidos Montreal or Eidos whatever it is sticking around very long. So, and as for the property itself, Marvel properties, I don't know, man, because the Wolverine game wasn't good. The Deadpool game was decently applauded, but that was still at like 7.5 or 8, so it wasn't exactly the perfect game. But superhero properties have never translated well into video games, except in the case of Batman and the Arkham Knight series, right? So I don't know, man. Like this is kind of unexplored territory for gaming, because Ultimate Alliance is also out and nobody really wanted another Ultimate Alliance game. So I'm curious to see how people are enjoying that one. But yeah, this is risky. I don't, if this does not do well, I don't see Marvel really investing in gaming again anytime soon.
I agree with you on that. But they do have a multi-game deal on the table. Whether or not it will see all the way through, and there'll be some tenuous times like we're seeing with EA and Star Wars, we'll have to wait and see. But it all rides first off on the Avengers game, which comes out in May 2020. So your thoughts, like you said, again, on Square Enix, you really liked it. You thought it was one of the best conferences out there?
Yeah, just because they have the most games that I actually wanted to play. And, again, I love the Last Remnant remastered was released the day that they talked about it on the thing. So they did a good job, and you can go on the Nintendo Marketplace or the Xbox Marketplace and find a bunch of stuff on sale also. So I think they did a good job. They actually had Nomura and a couple other people come out and talk about things. The creators of Dying Light came out. There's a couple other games, but unlike last year where it was video only, like they had people actually coming out and talking about the games in person. So that was cool. And I give them props for really stepping the game up compared to their last conference.
So there's your thoughts on Square Enix. I thought the Square Enix conference for me was okay. It was pretty good. Getting by for me, a lot of the reliance on the remakes and remasters. Obviously, the bookending of Final Fantasy VII and the Avengers was something they want to hit you with a 1-2 punch. I thought it was okay. Again, the reliance on the remakes was something I would try to go ahead and sprinkle in as opposed to just being very, very reliant on it. But you know what? The Square Enix seems to work for them. It got a lot of people who follow their games religiously very, very interested in it. A lot of those niche audiences, what I was looking through today, and a lot of the gamers that we both know that love those niche games like the Last Remnant, Rancing Saga, and some others that are being remade. We're very interested in it, and I'm happy for them that they'll be able to get a remastering of these type of games coming to a system that they love playing very soon.
You're listening to the Pop Culture Cosmos. If you're tired of sifting through flea markets for rare and unique games, we can help. Retro City Games in Henderson, Nevada, only 5 minutes from the Las Vegas Strip, has all your favorite gaming staples, classics, and a wide selection of rare games with new stuff always appearing on our shelves. Come in and chat with Nicole or Doug about your love of games and watch as they help you complete your collection or find your childhood favorite. And don't forget, Retro City Games loves trade-ins. So if you have any Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Sega, Xbox, PlayStation, or even PC games, come in and visit Retro City Games today. Welcome to the new metropolis of gaming, Retro City Games.
All right, my friend, that leaves us with the last and final conference of E3, and that is Nintendo, who I thought came out on top. I thought they did extremely well with what they had because they, unlike the others, don't have something that's coming up in development very soon. It's going to be released in 2020 as far as a new console is concerned. Now, they didn't, as far as consoles, they didn't announce a higher and a lower priced Nintendo Switch. They didn't come off with that announcement, but they announced a ton of games. And in that assessment, I really think that they came out on top, well ahead of Xbox. And of course, PlayStation wasn't even here, so they won by default there. I think the fact, again, that they are not having to wait with their stuff until holiday 2020 for a new system allows them to go ahead and jump on the audience now and the gaming marketplace now. And in doing so, they offered a ton of games, which I think a lot of people were interested in. Just to mention Luigi's Mansion 3, The Dark Crystal, Age of Resistance, The Legend of Zelda, The Link's Awakening remake, that's coming on the way. Like you were talking about with the Trials and the Collection of Mana. Witcher 3, that was a big news that is coming to the Switch as far as a port of it. Well, so we'll see how well that runs on the Switch. But that, you know what? Witcher 3 is a great game, so it's coming to the Switch. There was Fire Emblem 3 Houses that's in development. Resident Evil 5 and Resident Evil 6 are coming to the Switch. Travis Touchdown returns and No More Heroes 3, a game which I originally liked on the Wii. You got the Contra collection that's coming. Panzer Dragoon, a name from the past, that's also coming to the Switch. Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, that's coming out next month, and they showed a better look at that. That's coming out. So what are some of the things that you really liked about the Nintendo conference? I know they talked about new characters coming to Super Smash, including Banjo-Kazooie and Dragon Quest characters coming to Super Smash. You had, of course, the big announcement, which was not Animal Crossing New Horizons coming in 2020, being delayed, but it is a sequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild that is in development. So overall, Nintendo really scored a big hit with audiences and proved, I think, without a doubt, that they won E3.
Yeah, they had just really cool announcement after really cool announcement. I'm looking at your list here. Let me just go through here. Luigi's Mansion 3, really excited to play because, like we discussed before, the Nintendo Switch is my first official Nintendo console right outside of Game Boy and stuff like that. So I'm really excited to dive into that. Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening. I never played the original, so I'm really excited to dive into that, even though it's more of like a chibi version of Link as opposed to the one we've seen in Breath of the Wild. The Mana Collection, I'm really excited to play because I didn't, those were all in Japanese as a kid, so I couldn't get them unless I wanted to put a chip in my PlayStation or whatever it was. So that's cool. And I saw it's on the marketplace today for like $39.99. So maybe during the summer I'll sit down and check it out. You're a Witcher fan though. What is Witcher 3 on the Switch something that you would be interested in playing?
If I didn't have it already, yes, I would. If it was the complete collection, yes, I would. But got it during Black Friday. I'm going to get into it really into detail. I know I saw extensive looks at it before, and it got so much acclaim, so much awards. And I think it is truly a special game and is right up there with some of the best of the past 5 years. And I think that it's going on the Switch is going to revitalize. And you know what? They're just taking the Bethesda trail because Bethesda was quick to go ahead and put Skyrim on everything. And you know what? More power to them in doing so. They see that. They want to emulate that and get the money from that. So I can't blame CD Projekt Red at all. It takes a lot of money to go ahead and pay for Keanu Reeves, So you know what? You got to do it. To me, it's I don't have a problem with it. I really enjoy the fact that people will be able to go ahead and play Witcher 3 on their Nintendo Switch. How well it will run, that remains to be seen.
Will it be like Skyrim where you're only able to complete 1 out of every 10 quests? Okay, so let me hit you with this next question though. What would be an acceptable price point for you to pay for The Witcher 3? So Skyrim is still $59.99, and you can buy it on any other console except Switch for about $20. So what is
I bought it for less.
Price? What's up?
I bought it for less.
Well, you probably got it on sale. I did. Amazon had a sale one time, so I price matched over at Target, and they had to honor that. So that was cool. But what would be a price point for Witcher 3 on Switch that would be something you'd consider diving into?
For the complete collection, have to be no more than $30, $29.99, because it is an older game, and you can find it these days at $15 to $20 for the right deal on every other platform. So you and I both know that they're going to charge $59.99 for it, and they're going to get, at least initially, some interest into it. But to be fair, it should be somewhat near the price of what the other versions are at that have been out for years already. But that's not going to be the case, at least early on.
Yeah, but I mean, I would hope that it would at least start at $39.99, right, instead of $59.99, because who has $60 to pay for a game that's been out for 5 or 6 years on other consoles?
You might be surprised.
Yeah, I know, that's a sad thing. Fire Emblem Three Houses, they've been talking about that for a while. I've never invested much in the Fire Emblem franchise. Is that something you're into?
Not really, but I know people that did really get into it, so I know that's going to be a key point for them. There's another entry in the series.
Yeah. To me, it's like the Tales games, though, right? Like, there's definitely an audience for the Tales games, but it's just not something I've ever been fascinated by. What about Resident Evil 5, Resident Evil 6? So I've played Resident Evil 5 remastered, and I've never played Resident Evil 6, but to me, the big issue with these Resident Evil games being released on Switch is that they're far too expensive, man. Again, like, why do I want to pay $40 a piece for each of these games? Like Resident Evil 0, $40, right? Resident Evil 1, $40. Resident Evil 4, $40. Like, these games, you can find them for about $6 on any old console or on like the Xbox marketplace. So why do they feel like it's okay to charge so much money for a game that's been out for so long?
Because they can get it. If people are buying it and buying it and length like that, if they're buying it in decent enough quantities, of course they're going to go ahead and still jack out the price on you, even though you can find probably better resolution, faster versions of it probably on different systems that are much cheaper. But again, it goes back to the portability of the Nintendo Switch, and in order to go ahead and have these type of selection of games and these type of ports coming over the Nintendo Switch and have the portability to play a Resident Evil 5, a Resident Evil 6, a Witcher 3, and so on, then unfortunately the price gets jacked up because of it.
And that's true. Like the big novelty of the Switch, right, is that you can take it anywhere. And so that's the only thing that got me back into Final Fantasy X was the fact that I could buy the game. I had trading credits also. I'll let that be known. But I could buy the game and I could take it on vacation with me, or if I could take it to work with me and play it during lunch, or whenever there's downtime, I could sit there and play the game. So that's what drew that to me. But I mean, it still seems like robbery, man. Like these games are so old, but Nintendo knows that they can remaster everything under the sun and still make at least $40 off of it. So it's kind of crazy to me.
Spyro Reignited trilogy's coming to it too, and that's going to be jacked up.
The thing about that is that I know I'm not going to be able to resist the urge to buy it. I already have it on Xbox One, and I love it, and I'm just not going to be able to not buy it on Nintendo Switch.
Check out the price. Check out the price.
I know, dude. Hey, Nintendo, you heard it here, man. I'll pay you guys $60 for that game. No More Heroes 3. What are your thoughts? Any interest in that?
I do because of the old Wii game is the version of it, the original Travis Touchdown. I thought that was a fun, well-humored game, and I'd like to see what comes out of No More Heroes 3 when it comes out on the Switch. I still like to follow what's going on with Travis Touchdown. Just, you know what? He's got the coolest name in video games. What are you going to say?
Yeah, that's that's very true. Travis Touchdown.
But I think the big news was the sequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild coming most likely, if it's in development now, I would probably say, unless it gets delayed, holiday 2020. But they didn't say for sure.
And that's super fascinating. I love the idea of going back into that version of Hyrule, right, where Breath of the Wild took place. But from story aspects, so where do you think this is going to go, right? Because we not killed, I don't know what happens in the Zelda verse, but we took care of Ganondorf, right? We had the big battle in the castle. We saved the princess. Link took care of the big monster version of Ganon afterwards. Where do we go from here, though? Like in the trailer, there's clearly some evil entity coming back to life. Is it Ganon or is it something else? Because I would love to see a villain that's not Ganon, maybe something far darker, because this trailer definitely had a very dark tone to it, but still had those very interesting shades that the original Breath of the Wild had. So are we going to open this world a little more and let us explore a little bit more, or are we just going to be exploring the same old stuff again but fighting a different villain? Where do you think the story is going to go?
Hopefully it'll actually go a little bit longer, a little bit more spread out, but again, you only have so much in the way of limitations when it comes to the technology behind the Nintendo Switch. So that's one reason why I was surprised that you announced all these games, but you didn't announce new version of consoles, one more economized, and then one more that could probably handle a lot of these ports in a much better fashion.
That's true. So, I mean, my next question would be, how long do you think before we get to see this Breath of the Wild sequel? Do you think that it's something that's pushed out next year to compete with the next gen consoles from Sony and Microsoft, or do you think it's something we're going to be waiting for like 2 or 3 years?
They're going to slap that on as soon as those consoles from Xbox and Sony get into the, right there, right? They're all being loaded up. They're all going to go to Walmart and GameStop and all those great other retailers and whatnot. Yeah, as soon as they get lined up, oh, here's the new Breath of the Wild sequel. Sorry, we're going to take your money first. That's going to come right around that time.
Well, here's the thing, though. Like, I don't care to buy a PlayStation on day one, right? I will never buy a PlayStation on day one. I bought the last 2 Xboxes on day one because
I have no comment on the matter because I've done it.
Have you? Yeah. I mean, like I waited outside Target back in 2015, right? On launch day, me and Big Dog on launch day for Xbox One. And we got our Xboxes. I got Forza and Rise with it. But I've always waited like a few months after PlayStation came out to when they were more affordable. But here's the thing. If they released a new Breath of the Wild, say on the same day, or a new Zelda game on the same day that the consoles came out, like I would honestly consider not buying one of these consoles to play this game, depending on what games are coming out with launch. Obviously, if there's a Halo, nothing's going to stop me from playing that game. But if there wasn't something big like that in Breath of the Wild release, I would seriously debate not buying a new console in favor of playing one of these games.
So overall, it looks like Nintendo came out on top of all the conferences. I know, at least for me, because again, they don't have to wait for another console that's on the way. they can go ahead and start getting a lot of games now and start introducing to the marketplace a lot of games over the course of the next 18 months and get the jump ahead of all the PlayStation 5s and whatever Project Scarlet's going to become in the near future, whatever they're going to call it and whatnot. So I think Nintendo far and away, and people have always called me a Nintendo antagonist. They've always said I've spoken down about Nintendo. You know what? I will call it as I see it when it comes to any of the big makers. And right now, Nintendo clearly had to step up on everyone when it comes to E3 2019. I think they clearly came out on top and made a lot of fans happy that own or want to own a Nintendo Switch.
Yeah, I definitely agree, man. You know, of course, Animal Crossing New Horizons looks cool. The new Super Smash content, Marvel Ultimate Alliance, Panzer Dragon, you know, they're reviving the old Sega Saturn franchise. There's a lot of good stuff, man. Of course, there's a few other things that have been announced for a while, and they kind of touched on a little bit, didn't give us exact release dates, but it feels like 2020 is going to be a big year for Nintendo, and I love that they're more focused on current gen stuff than next gen stuff. I don't think we're going to see another Switch for a while, but
you might see a little bit more powerful Switch.
Yeah, and more powerful one for sure. But I don't think we're going to see a new Nintendo hardware anytime soon. But I love that everyone's like, "Oh, we got this weird, next gen console gap," and then Nintendo's like, "We don't, so we're just going to keep putting stuff out there that you love and hope that you buy it." And I'm wanting to buy a lot of it.
Well, it was some great conferences to wrap up the E3 2019 as far as, at least from Nintendo's point of view, and from everybody out there. It looks like Nintendo clearly won E3 2019, and according to us as well. So we were able to report everything on our Game Source Facebook page. A lot of news went out, plus also on Twitter. Just a lot of great news coming out there, especially from our guys that are already there in Tony and Jamie Monroy, that were there on the floor going ahead and showcasing some of the things that they saw at E3 2019. Plus, we got you the news sent directly to our Pop Culture Cosmos and Game Source Facebook pages and Twitter handles and all that. So it was really just a great time reporting all that stuff that went on at E3 2019 over the past few days. And, don't forget to check out our Friday program. We're going to have some, hopefully, from E3, you guys talking about what you saw and what you liked about E3 2019. Hopefully you guys will be able to get together to go ahead and talk about it at length so we can play that on our Friday episode. Plus, we're going to be talking about other great things as well, including Men in Black. Men in Black International comes out this weekend, so we got to talk about the future of the Men in Black series and if there is still one and if there's enough interest in it as well. So some of the other things that we're going to talk about include that and so much more. So got a great show. Again, it's the PCC Multiverse that's going to drop on Friday. Got some great things lined up for you in the future. And, of course, some E3 talk to wrap it all up in a nice, tidy bowl on our Friday show, the PCC Multiverse. Any last thoughts on the way out? Or you want to share with everybody out there where you're going to be at and what you're going to be doing and how to follow you when you're heading out to E3 2019 when they hear this?
We're going out to E3 2019 tomorrow. So you can... I'm sure we'll be posting some updates to the Pop Culture Cosmos page, so you can tune in there. We did a little bit of coverage of the Nintendo stuff today on our website, www.popculturecosmos.com. I'm sure I'm going to try to talk Tony and Jamie into doing some podcasting tomorrow afterwards to see where we're at with that. But yeah, definitely tune in, follow the pages, and you'll be up to date on everything. I'll have Chad Smith of Hyperschmidt with me. You can tune into that and find out what we're up to. We have a few interviews lined up, and yeah, just tune in, keep your eyes open. There'll be some content up, I'm sure.
You tell those Monroys to get me an E3 shirt. They owe me.
That's right. Gerald's all about the swag, ladies and gentlemen.
That is right. You have got to see some of the swag I've collected over the years at E3s that I've been to. It's always about the swag. All right, my friend, it's been a great show. It's, again, the PCC Extra. I want to thank everybody for listening. Keep in touch with us on our social media, Pop Culture Cosmos and Game Source. We thank you so much for listening to our show. And here's hoping you have yourself a great day.